Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. So today I am going to try to answer a question that a subscriber sent me on my page, which concerns the right to quote. This subscriber is asking me if he has the right to share on social media in the name of the right to quote short excerpts from films or series. So I will respond, the answer is not simple. The answer is, in theory, yes, and in practice, no, it is almost impossible. In any case, it is practically impossible without the permission of the author, or should I say the authors, since in the case of audiovisual works, they are generally collective works. So I will keep it simple. I will go for the simplest approach. I will cite the latest case law, which simply dates back to last year's presidential election campaign. And subsequently, as you may know, or perhaps you remember what happened, one of the candidates created a campaign clip to announce his candidacy, featuring a number of recent film excerpts, which were not free of rights in any case, and he was sued by several authors of those films, and he was convicted. Ultimately, beyond this particular case, it appears that, according to various recent legal precedents, one could theoretically quote an audiovisual work on a social network only if the publication in question has an educational purpose. So there you go, try to prove that a post on a social network like Instagram or I don't know, TikTok and the like, has an educational purpose. You will have a hard time, and I think you won't be able to unless you are perhaps a PhD in cinema and publish on LinkedIn or something serious. Otherwise, under the current case law, you won't be able to publish audiovisual works without authorization, partly because you first have to get through the moderation hurdles of the social network. And secondly, if you manage to do that, know that production companies are very vigilant and pay close attention to copyright issues. They don't want just anyone doing whatever with the images from their productions, and they can't spend their whole day granting permissions left and right to ordinary individuals, and their perspective is understandable. But here it is under the current case law, you will not be able to publish excerpts from films, series, or audiovisual works of any kind without permission. With permission, of course, it is possible. On the other hand, you can of course share excerpts from audiovisual works that are in the public domain on your social media. So, it is important to know that a public domain audiovisual work is an audiovisual work, and we need to be precise here, for which all authors have been deceased for 70 years. Therefore, there are not many of them. You see that works, films whose authors have all passed away. When I say authors, I mean screenwriters, adapters, directors if they are not the same person, possibly the composer of the original score, etc. And all the authors, all the people considered as authors of the film must have been deceased for 70 years. So you see, we are in 2023, and all individuals must have been deceased since 1953 for you to be able to freely and without permission share excerpts from films. So you see, there are obviously very old films from the 1920s, the 1930s, and so on. But for now, there are not yet a plethora of them, but inevitably their number will increase year by year in the coming decades. And that's where you will respond that on your side you see many works that are not in the public domain on social media, you see many works that are not in the public domain on YouTube, and it surprises you because there are quite a few films or series that have been there for years, being shared by individuals, and that are not removed by YouTube or social media. So this is a particular case. We are in what is legally referred to as a grey area, similar to what is called in the software world a neologism known as abandonware, which refers to software that is no longer updated, no longer maintained, and whose creators themselves no longer care enough to even consider potential copyright issues. Well, for audiovisual works, it's the same thing. There are hundreds, thousands of French-speaking works, a huge number of series, TV movies, as well as films, some of which are relatively recent, that are sometimes freely available on YouTube and then shared later on social media. Well, these hundreds, these thousands of films and series are simply abandoned literally by their creators, who, in the case of series for example, we must acknowledge that unlike current series, the series from the 80s or 90s were written by a single person. So if this living person does not care about copyright, well, there is the idea, it is almost an unwritten jurisprudence, that this work can be freely distributed. And it is the same if the person has passed away, as the elegant rights do not claim copyright, and sometimes the authors themselves allow their works to be reproduced on YouTube, because they are fully aware that from a financial perspective, meaning not in terms of interest, artistic value, or aesthetics, but purely financially, they are worth very little. So why not let them be seen, let them be shared on YouTube, and allow as many people as possible to watch them, rather than asking for copyright that no one will pay and letting their work fade away? So we are really in a grey area here. There is the idea, it is unwritten jurisprudence, that a work which has not had huge commercial success, which is no longer broadcast on television networks or in cinemas or whatever you want, can be freely distributed if no one claims the copyright. So this is how you can find TV movies and series from the 90s. I will take an example because I like to take examples to illustrate my point. And here's an example that will make you smile, as it's about Inspector Derek. Just imagine that on YouTube. You can find all the episodes of Inspector Derek. And Inspector Derek is not in the public domain. Inspector Derek aired from 1974 to 1998, so it has longevity, and it turns out these 281 episodes are dubbed in French on YouTube. From 1974 to 1998, 291 episodes were filmed. These 281 episodes dubbed in French can be found on YouTube, posted by individuals, and are available. And this illustrates what I just said, since no one is claiming copyright. So it must be, I repeat, that this series, like the majority of series from the last century I should say, was written by a single person over 25 years. There was only one producer, both of whom have passed away, so no one is claiming copyright, especially for the French version. Anyone can stream Inspector Derek on YouTube, and by sharing these few images I am placing myself in this grey area. But the family of the author of Derek can, overnight if they wish, and that would be completely understandable. Because after all, it is a work that has a certain notoriety. Everyone knows Derek, except for really very young people, and even then, young people saw it at their grandparents a few years ago. So it is a work that has a certain notoriety. Even its episodes on YouTube are viewed by several 100,000 people. Therefore, perhaps one day, the family of the author of Derek will request that these episodes be removed and broadcast on a channel that allows them to receive copyright royalties, and that would be a completely legitimate and understandable approach. So there you go. I wanted to summarize with the case of Eric. The current situation in this crisis area, then the case law may evolve. In any case, you can broadcast works of a certain age that the rights holders have themselves abandoned, until those same rights holders claim copyright from you if necessary. But rest assured, if you decide to broadcast abandoned works, or even excerpts on your Instagram feed, if the rights holders decide to monetize the broadcasting of these excerpts and collect royalties, it would not be retroactive. The videos would simply be deleted by the social media moderation, and that would be the end of it, simply. So there you go. I hope I have indeed answered the question of this subscriber. That's what we can currently say about the issue of the right to quote. I remain at your disposal to discuss these topics, and indeed, in the meantime, take care.